So today I'm getting at it. A little bit of a reflection from the 10-mile run the other day. I felt pretty good for a long run, but the one thing that I'm clear on, first of all, I had this moment of clarity where I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what am I going to do when I have to run another 16 miles on top of the 10 that I just finished? Given the fact that I've only run 13.1 is the longest run I've ever had last year in that half marathon. So the goal for me has to be to make that 10-mile run feel normal, and that's a bit of a struggle. Finding the time to do it, my body takes time to recover. That was, Saturday's run took all day. I went to practice, coached the 9U team, came home and felt tired and tried to eat as much as I possibly can that night, but it really took a lot out of me. So the idea of finding time to really acclimate my body to these long runs, my legs felt heavy. So I have to develop a little bit of a plan and do some research and some more learning as to how to make that feel normal so that my legs aren't feeling heavy and that I'm not just completely spent and struggling through that day and beyond. So today is a great day here for running. The sun is out and I'm going to go out there for what I'm considering an intermediate run. Around 45 minutes here on a Monday to push out some volume, really get my weekly mileage up. Still concentrating on zone 2, even though it's really messing with my head a bit in the sense that I feel like I'm not pushing to be or become faster. But I've got to let that go. Got to let it go. So the goal is to go out there zone 2, really get as efficient as I possibly can there. And again, maybe by putting in some of these intermediate runs, 45 to 55 minutes or an hour, a couple times a week will make those longer runs feel more normal or more efficient. And that's the goal. So I'm going to go get at it. The only thing I've got is a southwest wind about 13 to 15 miles an hour. But other than that, these days don't come by often. So we're looking at 40s, low 40s right now at 8 in the morning. We'll see how this goes, and I'll get back at you with a little bit of a pulse run here in a little bit. Thanks. Okay, so that's that. 6 miles and some change, like a 6:40 or something like that. Man, I tell you, I don't know, it just felt harder. I mean, I'm happy that I did it. It felt good, but it felt also challenging in the sense that my legs still felt heavier from that longer run. And man, I got to do, what it made me realize there on the run was, so the one thing I've neglected since about 35, and I'm now in my mid 40s, not neglected, but just didn't feel as important for what I was doing it for at that time was strength training. And before, I used to go to the gym in my young 20s and my young 30s, and I used to go in there and pound the weights and do all sorts of other strength training activities and things like that. And I feel like I had no real rhyme or reason other than the quest to feel bigger and stronger and whatever. But anaerobically, I was probably in pretty good shape. Aerobically, I could still hang. I probably wasn't as loose and as fluid and flexible in my movements then as I am now. But now, much more aerobically fit and have not touched weights or any sort of strength work, with the exception of sort of push-ups and some core things from time to time, planks and things like that. So since having left that sort of work, I've increased my aerobic capacity. And only being a runner for now 2 years, since September of 2018, so we're looking at almost actually only a year and a half worth of true commitment to running. And when I first started running, I could only do 2 miles, and heart rate was like 160, and I was done and exhausted after 2 miles. And now, ripping off a 6-mile run, only 30 hours removed from a 10-mile run, feels logical. But what I realized on that run too was I do have to revisit some of what I know and those techniques about strength training. And I'm not talking about doing anything with weights. I'm talking about strength training for the purpose of endurance running. So I have to dip my toe into the water of what could that look like. And I think anytime you're on a schedule like this where you're trying to eke in there 4 runs and trying to boost 20 plus miles a week, the idea of fitting another thing in seems challenging and overwhelming for a teacher. But that's going to be my next quest, is thinking through some of that and learning about strength training. If anybody's watching this and you have tips for strength training, or folks who are doing strength training on a fixed time schedule in the week, or trying to find ways to be creative with that, I'd love to hear more about that. I think I'll look into some hacks and some tips and resources from some other runners. But that's it for today. And then the other thing too, I'll just add, actually not it for today, because I have one more thing here. The other thing I'm going to add is, so 800 miles cleared, feeling really good about that progress. My goal for next year, I've already decided, based on mileage, I was going to go ahead and get into the percentages of it, of upping the mileage, based on 10 to 20%, of my 800. And then I just realized, let's just call it a flat 1,000 for 2020. 1,000 miles would be a pretty good commitment for me, keep me in the game doing this work. So that's my commitment for next year. The other thing that I'm just going to add here, and I know this is a longer rant, but my weekly mileage going into 2020 here, so we're about a week away from 2020, and January is going to probably start the real commitment for marathon training. This month of December I view it as like sort of base building, see if I can get in around 60 to 75, maybe 80 miles this month, and then feel good about healing and progress going into January. I'm looking to build into pushing my weekly mileage up while still focusing on the heart rate training in January, and then really looking forward to different training blocks February, March, and then rounding things out in April. It's really hard to go out there at a 9:19, 9:20 pace when you think you could be doing it a little bit more efficiently, but I've got to try and play the long game here and make my commitment to that zone 2 efficiency, which I'm learning about and trying to dig in. That's going to be my commitment. So January, here we come, and we'll get back at it. I think this is episode 8 of this little training block here. If you're a runner and you're looking for tips, maybe there's something in here for you. And if you're beyond this stuff, this isn't the content for you. But either way, I appreciate you watching. Thanks.